Hello, you're watching Math with Haas Precalculus Season 2, Episode 1, Part 4. We're continuing our discussion of how to implement the distance formula into Google Sheets. So, last time we looked at, this is in Part 4, we looked at how to do this using the formula or equation editor directly inside the cells here of Google Sheets. Now what we want to do is look at using a script. So that is our task. So recall the distance formula is x2 minus x1, that quantity squared, plus y2 minus y1, that quantity squared, and a ginormous square root over everything. So that means we have input of 4 values, right? Our x1, y1, x2, y2. And when we consider our script, our goal is to come up with a custom function such that I can just type in the name of that custom function and send in our 4 x and y coordinates here into it, and we get out our value, our distance. So that is our topic right here. So here is our script. Alright. So when you, we should note how to access the script. So to access the script, you click right, you go Tools and you click Script Editor, and then you can create a new project, and then it would say function, then my function right here, and nothing else. And you would just change your my function to whatever you want. I called mine the distance formula, and note that inside the parentheses I put input. So input is referring to these 4 values. Oh, hey, more goodies for later. These 4 things right here, that is input. Alright. So with that, those 4 values are being passed in as my input, and now we gotta start talking about this second line here. So this line right here, return, means that whatever this is, it's going to be returned into this cell right here where our 9.2 is. So with that, yeah, pretty straightforward. It's just we're doing our math operations and it's going straight back into that cell where we put the equation. So now let's talk about this. So math.squirt, SQRT here. That means, well, that is the JavaScript built-in function for square root. So when we look at these parentheses here, we got this one, notice it's green, light up with that one, that shows you where this parentheses ends and starts. So everything I just highlighted is inside our square root, so that's corresponding to our square root here. And now we got this funny business. What's this input of all these square brackets and numbers? What the heck? And what's going on here is whatever. You'll see it soon anyways. So what's happening is we have multiple values being inputted into our function here. And what that means is then that what kind of variable our input is a what's called an array. Arrays are matrices, and in fact this right here that I just highlighted, you could think of it as a matrix that is one row, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And so these square brackets give us a way of referring to the elements inside our array. So our input in our script here has the following values plugged into it: x1, y1, x2, y2, in that order, because that's the order we have right here, right? Just following this here. So then when we look at this, we noticed that we had, let's move down here. We had input 0, 0, right? So the first 0 is going to refer to your row number. This one, the second 0, is going to refer to your column number. So input 0, 0 this thing here is referring to your x1. So input 0, 1, that's your y1. x2 is 0, 2, and y2 is 0, 3. Now, it may seem a little silly that we have these zeros in front here, but it is actually super important because how this array is interpreted by the script editor is that it is a two-dimensional array, not one-dimensional. So normally this right here is a one-dimensional array, but for whatever reason it is still being treated as a two-dimensional array, which is why we have to refer both to row number and column number. Okay, so if you only put one of the values in, your script would actually yell at you for being bad with your notation, and yeah. So that's what this input's referring to. So input 0, 0, that is x1, and we have minus x2. Wait a minute, our equation's x2 minus x1. Well, if we recall, we can rewrite this actually. This is the same thing as if we factor out a negative 1 out of our quantity. And so you can think of this as negative 1 squared times x1 minus x2 quantity squared. And negative 1 squared is just 1, so you just get x1 minus x2 quantity squared. The order here doesn't matter because we have the squaring going on. So we have x1 minus x2, and then we got this funny business. So notice all of this is in parentheses, and then we got this funny business here. So what is that referring to? So in JavaScript, which is what the script editor is based on, we have to talk about this notation here. So the double asterisk is actually notation for exponents. So this is the same thing as x squared. So if you had x asterisk asterisk, I don't know, how about 12, and that would be x to the 12. So this is saying we have x1 minus x2, that quantity squared, then plus, then we got y1 minus y2, quantity squared. And notice we have our semicolon right here to end our line. That's syntactically important. And once we're done, we can just hit save, and it is good to run. And so then we get our distance right here, and let's label that distance. Now, if you have a math teacher like me, it is good if we actually do not have, or if you have me as a math teacher, a better way of phrasing it is, I would not accept this decimal answer because I would like to see you figure out the exact value. So what that means is, in this case, our answer is square root 85, but can 85 be reduced down? That means we must figure out what is its prime factorization. So this is, in order to do that, if you haven't noticed, I got lazy and I made my own custom script using the prime factorization right here. So prime factorization is my custom script I made. So let's take in our value here, this 85, and it's x, it gives out our factorization right here. And then I have the transpose function right here. That is a Google Sheets built-in function, and that just switches to rows and columns. Otherwise, I would have a 5 here, a 1, a 17, and a 1. I think this is better to read. So in fact, I'm going to move factorization up here, and this column here is my factors, and then this is their exponents. So 85 is the same thing as 5 to the first times 17 to the first. Since that doesn't reduce down, then you know that this is just going to, your answer is just going to be root 85. And the cool thing is, we can now just, let's make that 3. why not? And we'll just watch Google do all of our hard work for us now. We can sit back and relax. Ooh. So we know it's square root 68 for this one. And we know the prime factorization is 2 squared times 17 to the first. So since you have a 2 squared, you know that's going to be a 2 root 17 as your answer. So that's actually quite convenient. If you'd like to see the video on prime factorization and explaining what all this is, check out the link in the description below, and also I put part 3 in the description below. It's not quite as fancy as this, but it's still pretty sweet. Shows you how to do this just using a basic equation in Google Sheets. That's using the equals sign and then type in your equation like what we did here, but not quite like this since we use a script instead. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and consider supporting us on Patreon. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining the math party.